Hi guys, Darth Deuce here, back on the Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today, taking a look at something I picked up today. A figure that I told myself I wasn't going to buy, but when it comes to Black Series and Star Wars figures in general, I am extremely weak-willed. I will fully admit that. It is the Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters Boba Fett in disguise. This is an exclusive figure. I don't know if it's fan channel or like Hasbro Pulse exclusive, but in Canada anyways, I didn't even know it at GameStop in Canada was going to get these in, but I went into GameStop and they had these on the shelf. And yeah, it's just one of those things where you walk in, you see a figure that you weren't planning to get, but you end up getting it anyways. And it's Boba Fett, and a cool looking version of Boba Fett, although very simple looking, so I ended up getting it. But yeah, taking a look, I don't usually take a look at the Black Series packaging, but I do want to take a look at this one because it is kind of more interesting, I guess. It's in that same sort of packaging style as those, I guess, what you call publication series waves of figures, the ones that have like the Kyrkanos and the Infinities, the white Darth Vader that recently came out, and like Sergeant Creel. You got that same style, almost like looks kind of like a book packaging. You got the Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters, and you got that really cool cover of the black armored Boba Fett. And it's a shiny. I don't know if you can really tell on camera too much, but it is very shiny, so that's kind of cool. And then on various points of the packaging, you'll have to excuse the glare because of the shininess, but you have different pictures from the comic book, which is actually a pretty fun read. I really love the image on the back here. That looks super cool. And on the side there again. And then it does have the Velcro opening flap. You open it up. You do have the new no plastic packaging, so you have an open window. You can like fully touch the figure and everything. More foil, another image from the comic book. You got it right up there. I don't know if you can really see it, but if you want to pause and read it, go for it. I do recommend, if you're into comics, reading the comic. It is a pretty fun one. But the basic gist of this figure is it takes place pretty much right after Empire Strikes Back. He has Han Solo with him in the Carbonite. He has complications with Han Solo in the Carbonite, has to do a job for a guy where he has to go into a gladiatorial arena, and he doesn't want to be recognized, so he paints his armor all in black and calls himself Django when he signs up, which is kind of fun. And he goes through and fights a bunch of people and all that jazz. And then, yeah, so that's where this kind of figure comes from. But yeah, not too much to say about the packaging. I'm going to crack this open and we'll take a closer look at the figure inside. Now the figure out of the packaging, and this is a cool figure. I mean, it does reuse the old Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett, the very first Boba Fett they ever made in the Black Series. So I assume for most people probably have some version of that mold, but if you don't, then I guess it's going to be a lot newer to you, but most people probably do, so you know exactly what you're getting here. There's not a whole lot new. One accessory is different, that's about it. And yeah, it's pretty much just a black version of that mold, and it accomplishes what it's setting out to accomplish. It looks accurate for the most part to how he looked in the comic book. I do wish they would have used the deluxe Return of the Jedi Boba Fett mold instead. That figure is just newer and a lot better, articulates a lot better. It's just a better figure. A little unfortunate they didn't use that mold. I don't even care if it's maybe a little inaccurate. It's just such a better action figure. This still isn't bad. Really the biggest issue is just the price point. This is $50 Canadian. I assume that translates to about $40 US. Because I have a Edge membership at GameStop, I got like $5 off, but still it's a really expensive figure. It's basically the price of a deluxe Black Series figure, and all those are already questionably expensive, and then this one is it's the same thing. Especially when he's all black and pretty much has no paint apps, or at least I imagine he doesn't. But anyways, taking a look, I do like how the figure does look. The helmet sculpt and just the sculpt in general, even though this figure is quite old, does hold up pretty well in that regard. The helmet still looks pretty good. There is black glossier paint for the visor to kind of accentuate the visor for the rest of the blackness of the figure. No moving rangefinder. They didn't have that on this mold. Soft goods cape, which I think is a different material from the original mold, and I think is actually a bit shorter. I remember the cape on that figure being way too long, almost down to the floor. And I'll do a comparison with the original figure here in a few minutes. But this one I think is made of some better material, and it also is a bit shorter, so I do like that. Doesn't look quite as goofy, I guess. But then the rest of it, you got all the sculpt detail you'd expect. I do like the textured sculpt detail on the armor, and you still got all the dings and damage. It's just all black. You got the gauntlets, the little wire that's sculpted up in there. I never really noticed before, but they even sculpted the wire that's under the sleeve as well, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, not a whole lot. It's extremely basic, super easy for Hasbro to do. I don't know how to tell which parts are painted and which ones aren't. I assume most of it's just casted in black, and maybe just a little bit of paint here and there. But it gets the job done. It does look good, I'll be honest. But it's really simple. In terms of articulation, that's really the biggest issue with this mold. The articulation's pretty dated in terms of its range of movement. But you do have a ball joint in the head with a hinge, so it actually looks up pretty good. Looks down pretty good. Not really any pivot, and he does rotate. It's pretty tight rotation. Not too bad though. Hinges at the shoulders, which that is friggin' tight. Holy. Holy. I was kind of scared to break that, but it actually goes full 90 once you get, I think, the shoulder pad to go into the opening of the joint there. It will go full 90, but that is kind of scary to move. This one, kind of the same deal. Once you get underneath the torso sculpt, it will go all the way. But yeah, it's kind of scary. Single hinges in the elbows. Because of the gauntlets, the way it's sculpted, this one doesn't get quite 90. And this one also doesn't get quite 90, which is a bit unfortunate. Swivels at both wrists, but both wrists just go in and out instead of up and down. This wrist at least should definitely have gone up and down, so that's a bit unfortunate as well. The torso joint's actually not bad. It rotates, it pivots a little bit, it crunches forward a bit and goes back a bit. It's not terrible. Hip joints is really where the biggest issue is, because you got these big plastic pouches that really don't move and hinder a lot of posability. They go out decently, and kicking them forward though is such a chore. You can kind of force it eventually, go to about that far, but can be a pretty big hassle if they pose them the way you want. Soles at the thighs, double hinges at the knees, which bend quite a bit, but aren't the most appealing looking. They don't look too bad, but yeah. And then you have hinges at the ankles that don't go up a whole lot, go down quite a bit, and they pivot. So, I mean, the articulation's really not that bad, but it's just some pain points, like the hips mainly, and like the shoulders being kind of scary to move, and the elbows not bending as far as I'd like them to. So that's something I don't like. And in terms of accessories, of course, you gotta have his jetpack. It's just cast in black, I think. Because this is the old figure, you don't have any holes to port effect parts, which is unfortunate. It does peg onto his back. Like so. Actually pegs on pretty securely. So that's nice. Once you get that going on, it isn't coming off. So I do like that. That looks good, you know. Jetpack on Boba Fett. You do get the same pistol that the figure came with originally. Just cast in, I was going to say black, but it's more like a gunmetal, I guess. It looks fine, you know, not like super detailed or anything like that. I do wish he came with two of these, because in the comic and in the art that you would have seen on the actual packaging, there's a picture of him dual wielding these pistols. I think he should have came with two, especially because of the price point. But you can holster it on his side there. It just kind of slots in. It's not a super secure, like it won't fall out when he's just sitting on the shelf. But if you like are playing around with him and you turn him upside down, it'll fall out. But you can holster it. Of course, you can hold it as well. I think his trigger finger's on both hands. So you can do kind of whatever. You can get it wedged in there. That looks all right. But because you don't have that hinge on the wrist, it's kind of annoying. Can't get as good of poses as you maybe want to get with this one. But it's still good. And the other accessory and the only new piece is you do get this like war axe or spear or whatever you want to call this. It's again cast in the same color as the pistol. Looks pretty good. Pretty simple, but does the job. And it's kind of how it stands up to him. It's just a little bit taller than him. And you can put that in his hand. Again, he doesn't have the right wrist hinges though, so you're kind of limited in the stuff you can do with the posability. It's tough to get him in the... You pretty much can't get him in the pose that he's in on the packaging, because you can't really get him... You can kind of fake it, but you can't really get him to hold the spear like the way that he does in the comic cover. Not easily, but it is like cool looking. If it didn't come with this, I definitely wouldn't have got it, because at least this gives you something different. That's cool. But again, like I think some more accessories would have been nice. Like I said, another pistol. I think there's a couple artworks there where he's using like a rifle or something. Would have been nice to include the rifle, or even just include the Empire Strikes Back rifle, just for fun. Like why not? I don't know. So the rifle would have been nice. The effect parts, wouldn't say no to effect parts like flamethrower pieces or something. I know this mold was never designed to incorporate that. Surely they could have done something. But for comparisons, not really much compared to except for the standard Boba Fett that this mold is based. It comes from. This is the archive release. It's technically not the original, but it is the same thing. And yeah, you see how they look together. And it's like a good looking figure. Like in terms of look, I think it holds up pretty well. And I almost want to say it looks kind of better on the black, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it just has the shortcomings of being an old mold, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. You can see the difference in the capes there. The new one's actually a bit shorter, so I do like that. It's not as cumbersome looking. But yeah, overall, I mean, I like this figure. I'm being a big Boba Fett fan, like many people are. And I think this is, even though really simple look, it is a really cool look for him. I like that they include the spear. And I like the story that it comes from. That helps me like the figure when I have that context. But I really can't recommend this figure. At the price point, it's just not worth the money. I would only get this figure if either maybe if I can find it on sale on discount or something. Whether that'll happen or not, who knows. Or if you're a really like mega Boba Fett fan and you want to have this version of Boba Fett and for the Black Series, then yeah, I would get it. But aside from that, there's definitely not an essential piece to your collection by any means. So yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.